What's up, Gripsters and random YouTubers? Evan here for Grips.com, and we have some reason for excitement. Last Sunday, Team Grips member xxmmarioxx shipped the Big Ben on Full Tilt Poker for just over $17,000. The buy-in was 109, which means he netted about 170 buy-ins, not too shabby. We're going to go through this hand history together. That's me and you and I. It'll probably be a 4-part video, possibly 5. I don't want to make them too long, so, keep them within a reasonable length of time. For the sake of time considerations, I'm only going to go through the hands where our hero was involved, and once we get down to the final 3 tables, I'll probably look at every hand so we can try to get a feel for what sort of reads our hero had and why he took the actions that he did. Anyway, enough with the intros. Let's see what it takes to turn $100 into $17,000. I'm going to imagine a little bit of skill and a whole lot of luck. Or possibly it'll be just a little bit of luck and a whole lot of skill. The hand history will tell. For the record, this is my first time going through this hand history, so I know nothing about what hands were won and lost. I'll just give my thoughts on what I would do each hand, and then we'll see what Mario did. Let's get into the action. So, it appears that our hero late regged the tournament. That's why the blinds are starting at 50-100 with an ante. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you feel that you're not that comfortable playing deep stack poker, then it can be alright to late reg a tournament. If you think your strength is in playing with 40 big blinds, 30 big blinds, 20 big blinds, maybe 10 big blinds, then to maximize your expectation, it really makes sense to register the tournament at the point where the blinds are kind of in your sweet spot. The fact that you have the option of whether you want to reg on time or register late is a really big benefit for people who just don't feel that comfortable playing certain stages of the tournament. And a cool thing is, even if you miss the early levels, you're really not giving up that much value. So don't ever feel bad about late regging a tournament. Just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, not just because you really need to get your fix and that's the only tournament that's regging right now. Anyway, ace-jack in the cutoff is going to be an obvious open. Min raise is perfectly fine, and we take it down. Jack-9 not going to be an open from the hijack, and Queen-9 not going to be open from the hijack either. Queen-Jack, middle position. With antes, I think it's fine to open. I probably wouldn't open this hand, but I play on the tighter side. So our hero goes for the min raise and takes it down. Deuce, rags, rags, rags. If folded to, I could see this being an open, but someone else took the spot already. Okay. King-Jack offsuit. Again, personally, I don't know if I take this spot or not. As your stack starts to get shallower, but not to the point where you're forced to kind of reshove only, you want to open up your range for raising so that you can, because stealing the blinds is so much more significant and gets you like back in the tournament a bit more. So on this stack size, it could be okay to open a little wider with a hand like a king-jack off, a hand that flops well. I'd much rather have a hand like king-jack offsuit that can make a lot of top pairs than a hand like 4-5 suited. Because when you're on such a shallow stack, the ability to flop like flush draws and straight draws is really trumped by the ability to just make top pair. So we hit him with the min piece and take it down. This is definitely an open, king-queen off, and our hero is just kind of coasting along. Nothing too crazy happening yet. Here with 2 9s on a stack of about 30 blinds, I'm going to say that 3-betting versus a cutoff open is probably the best play. Our hero goes ahead and does that and takes it down. Now, after 3-betting to this size, if Kriz PKR decides to 4-bet all in, we have to call. We're not 3-bet bluffing, we're 3-betting for value, and when we're doing something for value, we're perfectly willing to, take on further action. So folded to the button, I could see this being an open. Let's look at the stack sizes. So we have 20 blinds in the small blind, deep stack in the big blind. Our hero decides to 3-bet, and I think this is a great play, The cutoff is going to be opening fairly wide on 40 big blinds, but you know, it's not like he's opening under the gun. He's not going to only have premium hands. He's going to have a lot of hands like King 9 off, King 5 suited, maybe Queen 10 off, maybe pocket 5s, hands that are perfectly fine for opening, but aren't really good enough to 4-bet all in and don't want to call a 3-bet out of position. So Mario takes advantage of his position. He has a hand that flops reasonably well, and generally when we're 3-betting, it's more, the spot is more important than our actual holding, and our opponent's range for opening and for continuing versus a 3-bet is more important than our actual holding. So a hand like Jack 9 off is perfectly fine. And I've had a lot of people ask me, you know, what are the right hands to be 3-betting with? What should my range be for 3-betting with? And the truth is, it's much more just of a situational thing rather than just following a strict set of guidelines for specific hands that you 3-bet, because some hands will be 3-bets in certain situations, and in other situations they'll just be folds. And that's the cool thing about tournaments. With so many different stack sizes in the mix, there's always a different best play. Oh look, we got former world champion Joe Cat on the table. That's pretty cool. Our opponent flats the 3-bet, and this board is pretty good for us. I'd like to see a bet of maybe 420. Ooh, good guess. And this should work fairly often. Our opponent's, you know, he'll have some ace-x hands, but he's also going to be peeling this 3-bet with his, you know, his strong suited broadways probably, for the most part, which didn't hit this board. And if Midnight Guest is to continue, we're probably just shutting down. I don't think he's calling a 3-bet with too many low card hands, so the 6 and the 4, you know, they might as well just not even be there. And Mario takes it down. And it's important to note that that sizing is really board dependent. This board is really dry, no draws out there, so there's no need to bet big. You would be surprised at the fact that you can get away with a 3rd pot bet on certain board textures like ace rag rag or king rag rag. And it's when you're dealing with stuff like king jack 4 with a flush draw or 10-9-7 two-tone, where you're going to want to bet on the bigger side. The more draws that are present, the larger you're going to want your bet sizes to be. So take that down. We've chipped up nicely. Folded 2, I like a 3-bet. I mean, I like an open. Facing an open from a 30 big blind stack, I would probably just fold this hand. I think with 7-8 suited or 8-9 suited, like a true suited connector, you're going to be a little more inclined to call. But I don't think I would call with this hand. 3-betting, no. I think I'd probably just fold here. Our hero decides to call. There's a shove behind, and of course we have to fold. We are getting 1.6 to 1, but you know, no need to call off almost half our chips just because we're getting a decent price. The price isn't even that good anyway. And I think that our hero leaked a little bit of chips there. With a pocket pair, I'd like a call, or a true suited connector, or a stronger holding. Those pretty hands, you know, we want to see flops with them. We've been taught that it's good to see flops with hands that are suited connectors or suited gappers. But that concept's more applicable when you're really deep stacked. And when you're playing on 30 big blinds, maybe even 40 big blinds, you don't need to peel too wide. So me personally, I'd fold, but I'm sure Mario will justify in the comments why he opted to call there, and I'm very interested to hear his reasons. I'm also interested to hear if he would have called if there wasn't a caller ahead. Like if it was just him and Joe Cata possibly heads up, if he'd call. Maybe he called for the bounty equity of trying to bust a World Series champion. So we're just going to fold the 9-4 off. Jack Queen, probably open if folded to, especially given that Mario's shown he likes to open these sorts of hands when folded to, but facing a raise, we're just going to dump this hand. King 10 off, same situation, not a must open, but definitely a fine open if folded to. And it looks like Midnight Guest likes to play pots. It's queen suited. Not too much to talk about there. Okay, queen 5 suited. We're getting 4.5 to 1. So we have to, if we lost no more money post flop, we'd have to win this pot 18.2% of the time, which really isn't that much. A lot of players will say, you know, getting this sort of pot odds a really good price and such a discount from being in the big blind that you can call with a pretty wide range. I think Mario would probably fold queen 5 off, but being suited adds a lot of value. That being said, you don't need a call here, and I think that 3-betting is the superior option. Personally, I'd probably just fold this, but I like what Mario's doing here. He's finding people who are opening with what are probably wide ranges and attacking them, putting them in tough spots. And the good thing about 3-betting from the big blind is that you only have one player to get through. When you 3-bet from the button, you have to worry about the small blind and the big blind waking up. When you 3-bet from the small blind, you have to worry about the big blind as well as the initial opener. Whereas when you're just 3-betting from the big blind, well, you only got the opener to worry about. And if you believe that he's opening with a wide range, your 3-bet is going to be working often enough. We're risking 400 here to win 540, so it needs to work like little over 40% of the time, less than half the time, not bad. And so far Mario's timing is on point. Fold 6-9 off, fold the K-Do, Dolly Parton, no need. Definitely open this if folded to. Mario opts to flat. I don't know that I love the play. It really depends on how wide JDPC is opening from that position. Suited, I like a call more. I think with an offsuit ace-jack, it's a hand that you don't really need to get involved with, but again, looking forward to hear his reasoning for doing so. Flop is all bricks, and we peel with the backdoor flush draw, or the backdoor straight draw, and the ace high. I like that. If you're gonna be peeling with more than just premium hands pre-flop, then you're gonna have to do some floating. You're gonna have to force your opponents to fire multiple barrels to take these pots away from you. And the more connected the board is, the more you can kind of mess around with your opponents because there are more hands you can represent. So hopefully JDPC checks and we can take a stab, but he keeps firing, and at this point I think the best play would be to just release our hand. You know, we let him know that maybe we have something, we're interested on that flop, and he said, that's cool, bro. I'm really interested in that flop. So say, okay, take it down. You don't want to get overly committed to hands. You know, just because you called pre and you floated once doesn't mean you have to double float or bluff raise the turn. Like, you want to make a lot of small investments when your opponents have reasonably wide / weak ranges. And then if they ever show a good amount of weakness, that's when you attack. If they continue to show strength, you just have to let some of these pots go. All right, we got a suited big slick, which obviously going to open, and we take down the blinds. Very uneventful. Another Dolly Parton, folding the kicks. 10-9 suited under the gun on 30 blinds. That's fine. Fine open. Called in position by a guy with under 20 blinds. Interesting. That's a really strong flop for us. So we have options here. We can obviously c-bet and probably shovel the rest in on the turn. We can bet, call a raise if we get shoved on. And we also have the option to check and shove over our opponent's bet. I don't think we would ever check call, and we're obviously not folding in this spot. So when determining whether or not we should bet to get all in or check with the intention of check raising all in, we need to evaluate whether our opponent is likely to stab at this flop if we check. If our opponent's not likely to stab at this flop when we check, then there's no real sense in checking to him with the 10 high. We might as well start pressing our equity edge here. I'm trying to think about what hands he would flat with pre-flop. And I think if he has a hand like king-queen or ace-queen that he decides to flat with, he's probably just going to check it back. And unless he's a really bad player, he's probably folding the small pairs pre-flop. And in a 109 tournament, you're going to have some bad players. You're not going to have a ton, but you're going to have some. I think overall betting is probably the best option with the intention of shoving it in on the turn. We make our flush. Given that, I think we could try to rope our opponent in maybe go with a bet of like 800. I think I like to see Mario bet slightly bigger on the flop, just so we have a pot size bet on the turn. But you know, that's small details. So I think I like a bet of about 600 to 800 here. Interesting. And Mario checks. Opponent bets. And let's see if he has a float. He's probably not going to bet the river again, with us calling 640, and they're going to be like 3.3K in the middle with 1300 behind. So I think if we're going to check this turn, play is to check shove, which Mario does, and our opponent has slow played aces, which makes sense for him flatting on that stack size pre-flop. As people get shorter, they won't typically peel with as wide of a range if they know what they're doing. They're more likely to be trapping. But it would appear that no matter how we played this hand post-flop, we were going to get all the money in. And I think Mario's way is just fine. I would like to hear from him why he opted to go for the check shove on the turn rather than just going with a bet line. I guess if he had like a whiffed ace king or ace queen that he c-bet the flop, he would probably be checking on that turn if he doesn't have a club. So it makes his range look weaker and is more consistent with a lot of the hands he can have in that position. So ship that, and we got 7.8K, and we get a walk with kitchies, which is always nice. 2 9s, facing a limp from early position. I don't really see anything to do other than make it somewhere between 480 and 640 here, with the intention of calling a shove from our opponent. Sure, he may be limp re-raising with aces, but there are plenty of other hands that aren't aces that he could also be limp re-raising with, and facing a limp from a random player in a tournament when we have the, what, 6th best hand in the game, we're going all in. 5-15, opponent just calls. Not sure what that means, but one overcard on the flop. Don't see how many 10s he's limp calling with, really. So I think we just bet call off on this flop. We have 2 times the pot left. Our opponent just calls, and I think we shove the turn. Mario, you tricky fuck. Okay. Well played. Wow. This guy's bet calling the turn with ace-4. He may also be just calling with it anyway. But again, I'm starting to notice Mario's kind of a tricky player. And he likes to show weakness and give his opponents an opportunity to try to take pots away when he's never planning on folding. And I think that's really good, because you want to not only get value from your opponent's value hands, you want to get value from their entire range. So when your opponent's range contains a lot of weak hands, a lot of bluffs and semi-bluffs as well as made hands, you want to give them an opportunity to give you value with that weaker part of their range. So I like how Mario's mixing in these checks on the turn. It's good to see. Love the creativity. So we hold, and we got 11.3K, table chip lead. Doesn't mean a ton in the early stages, but it's better than being the table short stack, that's for sure. Fold some rags, and we got a pair of 10s. We're gonna min piece. JDPC calls in the big blind. I don't know how wide he calls. Let's see. And he leads. Very interesting. So let's see. Let's break down his range. What could he be leading with? Get out of here, full tilt. Sorry about that. He could be leading with a jack. He could be leading with a 7. He could be leading with a gut shot. He could be leading with 2 overcards. He could be leading with a lot. I don't think we can really raise. He's kind of just taking the initiative away, and all we can really do is call and see what he does from there. I think we need 2 barrels on this particular card, even though he's still going to have some bluffs in his range, particularly the 8-9 if he peels that pre, and the 5-6 if he peels that pre. We're kind of just in a tough spot, and he's probably going to fire again on the river. So at this point, I would just fold the hand, even though we do have some parts of his range beat, he's probably peeling with more high card hands than he is low card hands, so overall most of his range probably has us beat. Mario opts to call again, and if you call the turn, I imagine you should probably call the river too. What do you guys think he has? I think it's the most likely. I'm really interested to see what he has here, because this JDPC is a pretty creative player. I wonder if he just has a strong Jack X, or if he can lead the flop with 2 overcards. He just has a Jack, and he got 3 streets. I think the call on the flop's fine, but facing the turn bet, I think at that point you just have to let go. Even though the king's like a great barrel card, you have to realize when people are leading into you, as opposed to check calling you, the range, or when they're leading into you as opposed to just c-betting and multi-barreling, the range is going to be very different than it would be when they're just c-betting. So I don't think he's as likely to be pure bluffing this king turn as he would be if he was the pre-flop raiser. But no big deal. We still have like 50 big blinds. It's early in the tournament, and we got some information. And it appears we are onto a new table. Ace-10 under the gun. I'm fine with an open there, especially with us having a medium-sized stack and a few guys having stack sizes where they're just kind of short. They don't have a lot of room to fuck around, for lack of a better word. And when people are kind of handcuffed like that, you want to take advantage of the fact that you have chips and be raising pots, trying to take down those blinds and antes. This is definitely a fold. Ace-3 suited, we might peel. But ace-3 offsuit, just garbage hand, especially from the small blind. This is an open if folded too, for sure, and I could see a 3-bet here. I don't like a flat, but I could definitely see a 3-bet here. The guy has 25 big blinds to start the hand, so we are effectively leveraging his entire stack. We're risking 4 big blinds to force him to commit 25 big blinds, so that's a pretty good proposition for us. I imagine that Mario is 3-bet folding here, but you never know. And on this board, I think, again, we can do a pretty small bet. Probably a little bit bigger than on the ace-high board, just because, you know, a couple of overcards can come. So the hand we're repping is a little bit less locked up than the hand we were repping on the ace-high board. So I think I'd like to see maybe 7-25. Man, I'm pretty good with my guesses, or just maybe Mario's been watching a lot of my videos and he has a good feel for how I play. It was a great board for us. Nice and dry, no draws. So when there are less draws out there, you're much less likely to get played back at, check raised, and you can just c-bet with confidence. This is an open, and if the big blind shoves for 12 blinds, we're snap calling. Jack-8 suit. Again, the players behind, they're all kind of in that handcuffed stage. So I could see an open here. 2. Maybe there are more fish in these 109 tournaments than I thought. This board, I think we have to fire a c-bet, maybe 650, 700. And unless we turn a 10, a heart, maybe a 7, maybe a queen, or a jack, we're done with this hand. Pair of 8s. I think I'm check folding here. Okay, good stuff. It's important to not, turn a pair and then be like, oh shit, wow, I have a pair, I should probably continue here. Really evaluate what sort of hands your opponent would peel with pre-flop and then peel with on that flop. And then think about what your equity is against those hands before you just like automatically make a decision just because you made a pair. It's really important to take your time and think things through. That's the only way you're going to be making the right decisions. If you're acting impulsively and emotionally, you're much more likely to make not only the wrong decision, but a decision that you're really going to regret because you're like, man, all I had to do was take a little bit of time and think about it. Why didn't I take 10, 15 seconds? You don't even have to waste any time bank doing that, so yeah. All right, Rag City, Rag City. Let's see, we got a guy opening on 22 blinds. Could reshove here. It's an okay hand and it's not too many chips to risk. I'm going to guess Mario peels for his pot odds, which with medium strength ace is perfectly fine and may actually be the superior option because we're risking less and we're going to get a little bit more information about our opponent's hand. And if he happens to be raising semi-light, we dominate the eights and a few aces. On this board, we'll probably just check folds. That's fine. I don't know if I personally would peel there in that spot, but I can understand why he would peel. It really depends on how wide the opener is raising. If it's a tight player, it's probably a fold. If it's a super loose player, it's probably a shove. And if it's a guy who's just in the middle there, yeah, I can see a call. You know, it's only one chip. We're getting a great price, and we aren't going to be committed on a ton of flops, but our opponent is going to c-bet on the flops that we hit. So we'll get at least one bet out of him when we pair our ace, and we happen to be good. Fold to 10-6, Jack 4, Jack 6, Ace 8 suited. Definitely going to be a raise. We're effectively in the hijack, and we take it down. 10-7 suited. I mean, if we raise the Jack 8 suited, we could probably raise the 10-7 suited. Same sort of stack size thing, but you don't have to take every light open. It really is a stylistic thing. If you're someone who likes to play a lot of pots, then those suited gappers, 2 gappers, 1 gappers, 3 gappers, whatever, they're fine to open. And it really depends on how tough the table is. On a weaker table, you can get away with raising those hands. If you think your opponents play pretty well, then you probably want to shy away from them and stick to a strategy of opening more premium hands. Okay, this is obviously an open on the button. And again, we take down the blinds. Okay. Some rags. So we will fold and we will fold and we will fold and we will fold. And sometimes in tournaments, you just have to fold and wait. I think first is an under the gun open. We don't really want to just get this in, so flatting, taking a flop is probably the best play. Backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, could argue for a peel. I think I'd just throw the hand away. We don't want to over-invest against someone who could have a strong range. Okay, limp in. If he's gonna let us, we might as well limp and then take a cheap stab at the flop. Success. Raise if folded to, fold if raised ahead. Same thing here. Fold, fold, fold. Fold. We got a suited ace, and given what Mario's shown us before, I imagine he's going to take his pot odds here. And I think check calling is the only play here. Hoping it goes check, check. Wow. I don't know what I'd do. 2 flush draws, 2 pairs. I'd probably just fold here. But we have to think about what hands our opponent would check back on the turn versus betting. You know, like, is he gonna 2-barrel here with pocket 7s? Is he gonna 2-barrel with jacks? Is he gonna 2-barrel with a queen? Is he gonna 2-barrel with aces? Or is he mostly 2-barreling with bluffs? Can't know the answer unless we see his hand. And he happened to have flush draw. So nice call down by Mario. And I personally probably would have folded that turn, but the more I look at the hand, maybe I see the call. You really got to look at, you know, just because your opponent's betting twice doesn't necessarily mean he has a value hand. Think about what would he do with his bluffs, what would he do with his value hands. When he takes this action, does he have more bluffs or more value hands? Those are the kind of things you need to be asking yourself before you act. And here, I would fold. But I know Mario's going to call because he's got a decent hand. He likes to see flops. Playing from the small blind isn't ever that easy, and you're much less likely to realize your implied odds than you would be if you're on the button. But check, 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 check. think we got to call one. We got a pair. Our opponent did not bet the flop. Wow. And that's a cool play. In fact, that's definitely a better play than check calling. Because if our opponent had a really strong hand, he would probably bet the flop. And when he checks back the flop, he's probably doing kind of like a pot control thing. And then when he bets the turn, you know, he's betting a medium strength hand, which maybe he's hoping to bet turn, bet river, or maybe he's hoping to just bet turn and check back river. But when Mario check raises here, turning his hand into a bluff, clearly, because he's not doing it for value. He's forcing his opponent to, you know, think that he might have to play a big pot. And when our opponent checks back the flop, he's probably not interested in playing a big pot. And that's really kind of taking it to the next level, reading your opponent's hand well, and then doing exactly what he doesn't want you to do, which is usually going to be able to get you to win that pot. So I think that's a really good play. And I think it's a great place to end the video, because that's a hand really worth thinking about. And do you do that in your game? Are there spots where you think maybe you should pull that play, but you don't pull the trigger? Well, this just goes to show you that sometimes it's going to work. And what I like about this play more so than anything else is that it kind of justifies him calling with the 8-9 suited from the small blind, because he's not just trying to flop a big hand and get paid. He's willing to make moves. And the only way you can justify playing a wide range, especially in out of position and tough positions, is if you're going to be able to make moves on your opponents in right spots and put pressure on them when they have weak ranges. So I think that's a really well played hand by Mario. And that's going to wrap up part 1. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you can be notified when the next part is released. And if you have any hand histories of you winning a multi-table tournament that you want reviewed, please send them to evan@grips.com and make the subject line very specific. Let me know what tournament it was, how many entrants, how much you won, whether it was a turbo or not. Because I'm probably going to be getting a lot of emails. I've had a lot of requests before. People like, I made it deep, I made the final table, and I want to look at all the hand histories, but I only have so much time. So for the sake of me not getting overwhelmed with too many requests, the requirements will be that the tournament had a minimum of 200 entrants, a minimum first place prize of $5,000, and okay, we won't say you have to win, but you have to have won at least 5K. So if you chopped it even 4 or 5 ways, but you won at least 5K, that qualifies. Or if you won it outright and you got 5K, then that works too. And as always, guys and girls, make sure you get talking in the comments so that you can get the maximum learning experience from watching this video. Remember, passive observation is a great starting point for learning, but asking questions and getting involved in constructive discussion is where the real learning happens. Don't just talk about when our hero got lucky or won a flip. I mean, I guess that didn't happen in this video, but it's going to be the same thing going forward. Don't focus on the spots that were just like standard or coolers or where we got lucky. Try to notice the little things that really made a difference in helping our hero achieve victory. And I think you will be very happy with the results of just getting involved in discussion, hearing other people's opinion, questioning them, but constructively. Don't ever just shoot people down. Don't ever ignore their opinions, because then you're just not a real student of the game. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. This has been Evan for Grips.com. Now it's your turn. Go out there and get stacking.